Hey boys and girls, welcome back. I got an easy tie here for you today, tying up some mealworms, or caddis larva, or any kind of worm that you can find in the water. It's a pretty basic pattern, but very effective. So what we're looking at here today, basically legs, we have pheasant tail. I have a 3mm bead on the front. This is just nymph skin that's colored, and you know, that's probably the most intensive part, is trying to get that taper the way that you want it. And you always have to be cautious, you know, of this hook gap here. You know, this is still a little bit crowded at the tip, but you know, with these wide gap hooks, it gives you a little bit extra room. So let me show you what we're looking at here. Fire hole 718. That's one of my favorite hooks. That's size 14. What I have here is fire hole 3mm bead. That is what they call mounds, which is a darker brown. I have just some basic black thread to help build up that taper. Kylie's nymph skins. Doesn't matter really whether it's natural latex or the translucent that you can buy. I can't really tell the difference between the two of them. Black pheasant tail. And the finishing thread that we're going to be on is Semperfly brown. So let's go ahead and get started here. This is a great pattern. I use this one for the kids because it always seems to bring fish, regardless of what kind of fish. You know, I don't mind catching little ones as much as, and they just want to catch fish. So first thing we want to do here is coat this hook with some thread. Done a couple other patterns like this. Tulip caddis, very similar to this. It just doesn't have the casing, more or less, if you guys have followed that and seen that one. That's a good tie. So we're going to coat that first with some thread. I have some 5X mono. I guess I forgot to show you that on the ingredients. We're going to tie this on the opposite side of the hook, down to just past where it starts to drop off there. Okay, we're going to hang that. We're going to get our piece of nymph skin. Going to trim the tip on it so that it's pointy. I'm going to tie that in first. A couple wraps. That's sticking up like that. Now we're going to stretch it down the inside part of the hook. Okay. I'm just going to start building this up. Taper is important. You can control some of it by adjusting the tension on this nymph skin. But if you try to wrap it real loose around a skinny hook, it doesn't really tend to flare the right way. So I am going basically, you know, from the back of the thorax to the tail, trying to build up that section of the bug. Just to give it a little bulk, and then we're going to taper it back into the head. That's probably about good enough. Okay, gives you a little bit of a taper here. And that helps just with how the nymph skin sits on the hook when you're wrapping it. Sometimes if the hook is too skinny and you're wrapping it real loose, you get kind of a bunching effect, you know, on the front side of that wrap. And yeah, this can help alleviate that a little bit. Now we're gonna put our brown on. Trim that off. Put that off and hang it so that when we get to the top we can tie this off. Now with this nymph skin, I say it all the time, try to make those first two wraps kind of tight. And we're gonna start using our rotary function. Oops, I just lost that tension. I'm gonna keep that tension up till we get to where that bump starts. Then I'm gonna slack off a little bit, let that bulk up just a little bit. You can make these as skinny or as fat as you want to. Just kind of want those big segmentations back here to have a good edge to them. And once we get past that part, you can see that this front edge is maybe a little bit loose, and we're going to start to tighten that up around the head so that we can create that taper. And I will wrap this probably about half over the bead, just to create a little bit like a shoulder, I guess, because we're gonna have to wrap things inside of that edge of the bead when we put the feet and the legs on. The feet. All right, so I'll secure that down, fold it back a little bit, just to try to pinch that leading edge a bit. Tighten that up. Okay. Now we are going to tie this off. Hang that again so that we can place this correctly. And when you're putting this on, you want it just inside of that leading edge, because that's the point that you're trying to compress so that you can make, you know, these edges stick out a little bit more. See how this is happening here? I'm going to take it the whole way up to the top. I'm going to wrap this mono down pretty hard. And then we're going to fold it back. Wrap it over again because it just doesn't grab onto anything. Okay, tie that off because we're gonna color it, set it. Okay, so you can kind of see how these ridges here are sticking up. And the reason I like to put that black on the underneath is because this is a bit translucent, and you can kind of tell that there's innards. gonna coat this thing completely in yellow. I am brushing back and forth both directions. Typically, I don't do that. I like to keep the gaps clean. Just enough of a yellow. I always try to blend these colors. Put them on in layers. We're gonna put a dark strip down the center and color in the sides here with a little bit more brown. I'm gonna try to color this thread a bit. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to take our hard as nails. Very light with this stuff, so try to brush off as much as you can on your brush, and then brush from the top edge down, and it'll start to bleed those colors together and get in all those little gaps and grooves and stuff. So it's just a very light coat, but it does keep the color nice. Okay, until it's giving it a little bit more of a darkened color. Once it dries, it looks even better. Okay, so let's give us a minute or two to dry, and we'll come back and put the legs on. Okay, this dried up a bit. Now when we're putting these legs on, this pheasant tail, most times you're using pheasant tail. I might have said this before. You know, when you get your pheasant tail and you're just gonna peel off, you know, half a dozen or so, how many ever you need. If you've ever noticed, you know, where it attaches to the feather, when you peel it off, you get kind of like little curly cues. And we want to use this, okay? If you ever looked at these bugs in the stream, they have claws, you know, little grabbers, and you know, this is the closest thing that I found that seems to, you know, replicate that. And we'll trim some of these types of things up once we get them in. But all we're doing is laying this across the hook, getting that distance right here, probably about, I don't know, 1/4 inch or so. Keep this other leg off to the side. We're just gonna stack these around the hook this way. So when we get this on here, we don't want to cut off that claw, but we do want to cut off the curly cue. Leave that little claw. I always cut this other end at an angle a touch longer than what we're seeing that front leg. Okay. So that's the first one. Got 2 more. So we're just going to line it across the hook. Wrap this in between. So that when you cinch this down, it'll make those legs stand out a little bit better. Okay. This might be a little long, but that's okay. Fish can't measure. They can count though, so you know, gotta make sure there's 6 legs. I think they covered that at their last council meeting. So straighten those up, cinch them down a bit, make them kind of stand up. just going to put some tension on those to keep them there. What I'm gonna do is whip finish this and try to just keep it in between those front legs and back legs, just to keep them separated. Trim that off. Get some UV. First we want to color that thread. Just make this a little bit darker right where it touches the head, where you have that last wrap of nymph skin. You can kind of see the head popping out, so to speak. And then we're going to put a healthy dab of this right on the top, kind of like that. Cook it. It's a pretty simple tie. You can make these as big or as small as you want. I can tie these down to 18, and all you're doing is just adjusting the tension, you know, on that nymph skin. Obviously it's going to be a lot smaller, but yeah, you can still get the same ribbing, the same type of an effect. This one's basically naked in the water. So next thing we need to do, or final thing, we need to bend our legs, put little creases in them. All you're doing with that is grabbing the tip and creating a little fold in it against the hook. Most things will kink like this. Okay. There you go, guys. Mealworm, caddis larva, depending on the color that you put in. You know, this one has a brown head. I got a couple that I'll tie with a black head and make the body, you know, a little bit lighter, more like a maggot type of, you know, effect. You can put pink beads on it, put whatever you want on there. Mess around, tie it up, go catch some fish. That's your mealworm. All right, guys, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you again soon.